Record. Very good. All right, so now we are here with Adeline Cook of I Love My Doubles Partner. So, what is your title and what is I Love My Doubles Partner?
Well, it started with a book, and I wrote a 150-page book, I think, that is mostly photographs, actually cartoons of my doubles partners that I played with over 7 years of going from a 2.5 to a 4.5 player. And
Wow.
I just wanted to honor them and acknowledge them for being awesome doubles partners. And so when the book came out, I got a lot of positive attention from it. And at that point, I'd sewn myself a really cute tennis dress. And my opponents and partners said, "Oh, that dress is so beautiful. Could I please buy one too?" And so I made some custom dresses for people. And then I made some high-end tennis jewelry with rackets and balls, and then I made these beautiful vegan bags for the tennis community. And
Impressive.
then last year, I started organizing wonderful luxury tennis tournaments for women over 40 only for doubles. So it's become quite the little brand now.
Excellent. I mean, so it's, you know, significant. It must take a lot to make this clothing and the jewelry. What actually goes in? When, say, I wanted to make myself a skirt, what would go into that process?
It is very complicated because if you own a huge company where you have hundreds of people working for you, then
Right.
everything's done in-house. But I'm a small couture designer here in Beverly Hills,
Sure.
and so essentially I take my drawing and my idea and I take it to my pattern maker. So she makes the first pattern, and the first pattern is always made in my size. And
Right.
then after the first pattern maker, gives me the pattern, I take that single pattern to a sample maker, and the sample maker cuts one piece from my fabric and sews it and adds the trim, such as the binding at the bottom of the skirt, the shorties, uses my thread,
Right.
and then gives me the samples. That first sample is very expensive and it's a little time consuming because if something's wrong with it, we have to go back to the pattern maker, tweak the pattern, then take it back to the sample maker. Then
Right.
I
So
wear
a
the
lot
skirt.
could go
I play,
wrong.
yeah, back and forth. And so I play with the skirt I play 6 days a week. So I play with the skirt a good 20 times in order to make sure there aren't any major issues with it. And
Always good
then
to really
I
test it
take the
out.
pattern
Sure.
to something called a grader.
Mm-hmm.
And the grader is the person who takes my pattern and then gives me patterns for all 5 sizes, extra small through extra large. And
Okay.
then I have to make every size basically, and then I have to have people test their size too to make sure there's no issues. And then
But
once
you
we're
make
good
all the
there, then
different sizes. You make all the different sizes, or the
my
pattern
sewers
maker
do.
does? What's
Yeah,
that?
my sewers, well, she's called a marker. She's a digitizer. She takes the hand cut pattern and turns
Okay.
it digital and then does all 5 sizes on a long piece of white paper.
Ah,
And
okay.
so that paper gets taken to my cutter, which is a different person because now you're making 5 pieces, and the cutter cuts them. And then the sample maker makes the 5 pieces, and then you test those 5 different sizes. And then, if everything goes well, then you print the marker again with the 5 sizes, and then you cut 200 skirts, maybe 300, depends. And
Hmm.
then it goes to a different sewers that are more production sewers. The production sewers are different from the
Someone
sample
that's trained in
sewers.
like mass sewing, basically.
Exactly, exactly. They like to do, 100 skirts, 200 skirts at a time. They're not, the slower, more methodical sewers. And
And
a
that
lot
I
of
assume
my,
though 200 is kind of low. Like when you think about Nike and what they probably make a lot more skirts or no? Like how does 200 compare to
yeah, they
like what
probably
other
make
brands make?
about, of one style, they probably make a million pieces.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
And what are some
So,
things
I
that
mean,
could go
even
wrong?
Lululemon, yeah,
So
even
the
Lululemon has, they make hundreds of thousands of pieces. And so that's one of the things that's different about I Love My Doubles partner is you're not going to see, many women around the country, around the world wearing the same print and color
right.
and pattern because I make very small quantities in each size.
So it's a great way to stand out. Likelihood is someone
Yes,
else is not
definitely
going to
for
have your
the
skirt. So that's
right,
awesome.
definitely really my clients they like to be unique. They don't want to have the same bags, the same Chanel bag that everybody has. They want something a little bit different, a little bit more unique to their taste.
Sure.
So I often do print on my fabric too. It's called sublimation, and that's when I do my own design, and then I sublimate it onto my fabric. So if my skirt's gonna have, I have a trademark logo, which is this heart with rackets and a ball inside. So I get that
Sure.
printed onto my fabric, and that has to be done before the sewing is done.
Got ya. And you said they test
So the
out different
person,
people. You said different people
yes,
test
different,
out the different sizes. So, what are some
yes.
things that could go wrong?
Well, one of the main things with skirts, especially, is I use a very special fabric that took me 2 years to find and very special thread that's very expensive. None of the other couture brands are even doing that. My stitching is very special as well because it looks very luxury, but it's
Right.
specialized for stretch fabric. So one of the things
Okay.
with skirts that's very important is the little shorties that are underneath that we keep our balls tucked in.
Yeah.
So they can't be too long or too short. They definitely can't be too big because your skirt will fall down when you're running, and it can't be too small because then you won't be able to tuck the ball in. So
Right.
it's very important at each size that it fits correctly.
Sure. I definitely depend on that when I play. And so
Yeah,
you have different
the
people that
person who cuts
sample.
the skirts, for instance, is not the same person that cuts the binding.
Right.
So, on each skirt, there's about 12, 13 groups of people who work on one design. It's really incredible how many
Wow.
people, uh, yeah, you have to sort of get together to do one piece, basically, one run of 2, 300 skirts.
So you really are depending on a lot of people. So these people,
Yes,
they better not mess up.
that's
And
right.
they better not. So you need 12 people to not mess up. That's kind of a lot, actually. When I
It
think
is,
about it,
yeah, because the
12
last
people
step
not messing up is a lot.
the last step of the whole process is the embroidery, and so sometimes you've done all this everything else perfectly, and then it goes to the embroider, and then, her embroidery isn't good, and then you're like, "Oh, no, all that work for nothing." You have to, donate the skirt.
And so now that you have all these wonderful skirts, who are your like clientele and how do
My
you get the
yeah.
word out?
My specific clientele, are women over 40 that started playing tennis later in life. We
Right.
are a group of women that, became obsessed with tennis, and we love it and we love to look pretty. My designs are expensive, and so normally women that are younger are plowing their money into their children or buying a house or starting their life. Whereas my clients are more in their 50s and 60s and they're more established and they just love tennis. And my patterns, my sewing is done for a more mature body. One of the things that was missing in in the tennis fashion world, even the fancy brands like Tory Burch's clothes,
Right.
is that the people making the designs, they are young. They're right out of, fashion school, and
Sure.
they're designing to their bodies. And as we age, women, things go down an inch or two. So, for
Sure.
instance, my tennis tops and my tennis dresses, the bust area, which is the widest area on the tennis dress, is, an inch and a half lower than it would be if you bought, another business's
Another
clothes,
brand like
because
Lululemon, Athleta.
yeah, they're made, yeah, like even like Stella McCartney and Lulu, I used to wear their clothes, but it wasn't never really fit correctly. My clothes have been called second skin, and that's the main thing people say is my cuts just fit correctly.
Okay, so that's good to know. I mean, it's good to know your audience, and it sounds like you have a real read on who your audience is and what they need.
Yes, and I
And
love I love the tennis tournaments because I get to hang out with them. Um, you know, and I have a tennis tournament coming up in May that's in Turks and Caicos Islands, and so there's going to be a group of obsessed tennis ladies over 40 years old going on a 9-day all-inclusive white sand beach trip together, and they're all going to be wearing my designs, and it's just
cool.
so much fun.
So, what are these tournaments then?
They're USTA sanctioned tournaments, but they're
Right.
specifically doubles only and for, women over 40. But what makes my tournaments unique is that you play one set with each partner. So you don't sign up
Oh,
with a partner, you just come to the tournament, you play one set with each partner. And so it's super fun because you really, if you have a great partner, you're going to win a lot of games. And then if she's now across the way from you and she's your opponent, you have to figure out how to beat her. And so at the end of the day, or on one of my tennis trips at the end of the week, all of your games, we add up all of your games, and then that's how we decide who number one, number two is in the tournament, is by the cumulative game count.
I mean, it sounds like it's uniquely fair because then no one can say, well, she just had a good partner, which is, I think, what everybody's favorite phrase is. And also, it just seems like
Yes.
then you really have to adjust to your partner. And so it's really, a real learning experience to say, well, okay, I played with Lisa and now I'm going to play with Becky. So you really have to learn all your different partners, which is an extra skill. So it sounds like a great challenge. Um, when you were starting this business early on, what were some obstacles you faced and how did you combat them?
Oh my goodness, I made so many mistakes. It was one thing after another. As an entrepreneur, I tend to do things quickly and
Sure, we
courageously.
all do because we have
Yeah,
to a lot of
and
the time.
so I'm not really the slow, methodical, logical, linear thinker that is needed to start a fashion company. And so, for instance, I
I don't
bought
know.
I bought rolls and rolls of fabric, and, my fabric was sent to my cutter, and God rest his soul, he passed away last year, but he cut all of these dresses, hundreds of dresses, and then it went to the sewer, and then the sewer sewed all the dresses, and then, I had the trim cut and the pockets cut, and these dresses were put on hangers and sized and labeled, and I went, and picked them up and took them to the embroiderer, and the embroiderer did his work, and then when I picked them up and I went to do inventory, I noticed that all of the fabric was damaged. It
Oh,
had, yeah, all of it, all
lots
of
of
it.
money down the toilet then.
Lots of money, tens of thousands of dollars. Actually, it was right at the beginning. So having the quality control and operations was the first obstacle. Then the second obstacle was that it was so important to me to manufacture in Los Angeles, to keep the money in America, not
Yeah.
to go offshore, but my costs are high, obviously. And people here in LA get paid 20, $30 an hour, which is a lot. And in, China, it's $1 an hour. Actually, it's 10 cents an hour. In Mexico, it was $1 an hour because I looked at all of the different options. And so I just really had to focus in and decide what I was going to do. And I chose to go the high quality route. And that had a bunch of hurdles because I wanted to sell online originally, but selling an unknown brand where ladies don't know how it fits and it's
Yeah.
expensive and they can't really feel why it's so expensive and see it, that was very challenging. And so that's why I started sort of organizing tournaments and taking my boutique to the country club. So included in your tournament was a skirt. And when the ladies, put the skirt on and felt how amazing my clothing is, then they started buying bags and jewelry and tops and dresses. And so I realized that I needed to do the face to face thing, but that was 4 years into owning the company. So, I had a lot of years where I really couldn't figure out how to sell outside of, people in my own territory that saw me play in my clothes.
Yeah,
So
I
that
mean, we
was
have
very
to
challenging.
we always have to, grow our network beyond, our personal friends and our acquaintances and colleagues. Eventually, you have to grow if your business is going to take a leap. But I think lots of people who've been in business, it takes a while before you kind of figure it out because we're all kind of learning on our feet, I feel. But it's really true that, like, if a woman's going to drop a lot of money on clothes, you really want to see how the clothes fit. Um, like I'm certainly a bad example because I bought plenty of clothes in the pandemic, like on Poshmark, and didn't know how they were going to fit, but mostly it worked out actually. But yeah, I'm probably the exception of someone who would just do that. And
Well, you're also petite. And to be honest with you, the extra small ladies are much easier to fit because
are
as
they?
you have more fat and more curves, the curves are in different areas. So some people are pear shaped where their curves are more on the lower end.
Right. It's
Some
true that
people are,
everyone.
have tiny little legs, but they have upper chest situation. And then like myself, I have a size 6 waist and a size 10 boobs and size 8 hips. So it's kind of a mishmash when you go in the larger sizes. I'm a size medium.
So what
And
is
as you go
done?
large and extra large, it gets even more challenging.
So with this problem, because I believe a lot of women, are that way that I've noticed. So what are your skirts like kind of solve that problem in some way?
Yes, they're designed to fit basically all shapes. And so as long as you tell me what your hip size is, I did because one of the problems is when you just go up a size, they just make it a little bit bigger. It's 2 inches bigger, basically, all the way around. But what they didn't take into account, other designers, is that my thighs aren't stick shaped like your thighs are. The upper thigh area goes out and there's a curvation there. So you can't just go straight out. You need to be able to do the curve so that it fits the larger sizes without it being too baggy at the bottom of the leg part in the shorties.
I see. But what about like if one woman is narrow in one spot and the other woman is, wider in another spot? Do they get the same size? And have you ever like custom made clothes for like for someone's specific measurements, like they do with wedding dresses?
Yes. So uh, the first part of the question is that's why it took me 2 years to find the fabric. I wanted something to be super silky, but it had to have
Okay.
four-way stretch. And so I personally gain and lose about 10 to 12 pounds every month. I don't have always been like that. I go up and down and up and down. And so I wanted a fabric that could, accommodate that. I don't want to keep, wearing
Sure.
different sizes, of course. And so, yes, they do. I've mastered it. You know, the skirt, as long as the hip measurement is right, will fit you, even if you're a little thicker on top or a little thicker on the
Got
bottom of your
you.
leg. And then the second part is absolutely, I completely custom make tennis skirts, dresses, even bags and jewelry for people. There are many of my clients are either smaller than extra small, or they are larger than extra large, and or they want a custom color, or I've had teams that want their logo on their skirts and tops. I've had
Nice.
specific color, the whole team wanted like a turquoise color and with white trim. So I made a whole team, and basically they just gave me all their measurements and they told me which styles they want, and I cut just exactly what they wanted to buy as a team. So yes, we do everything. I'm really blessed that I live in Los Angeles, and so I have access to fabric and sewers and cutters and trim and all sorts of things, the
Sure.
same as you do in New York. We're in a very good area to do this type of creative work.
And um, do you have any special stories, I guess, where somehow that's something you sold to the customer, it made like an impact on their life?
I have a customer who sends me messages very often telling me that she feels like a princess in my clothes. The
Ah,
tagline, it's so nice. I mean, I really get teary-eyed when people send me these notes. And because I deal with women who are older, they're very grateful and thankful. And I get phone calls and texts. My customers, send me photos of themselves on the court. But this particular customer, it was so moving. She said that my court, I call them court to cocktails dresses because they're fancy enough to go to the country club bar straight after
right.
playing. And she said that she feels like a princess in my clothes and that it's made her play tennis better because of her confidence. And that just
Mm.
really melted my heart. I mean, I'm like, wow. So there, I have another client who um, has been playing tennis since a child, and she's a very fancy lady. She only wears beautiful things always. And when she found my brand, she bought a piece and then another piece, and then she became an amazing client. And now she told me, I can't wear anything else. Your clothes are just fit correctly and they're so soft, and I just play better in them. And I mean, it makes your life.
Yeah.
She's in her 70s and she's a beautiful, tall, gorgeous woman. And she sends me pictures, and I just really am moved by it. Yes.
I
I
can
had another
imagine.
lady who bought 2 dresses, to be shipped to New Zealand, and I contacted her, and they said, "Wow, how did you find me? And, what are these, are you a tennis player? How often do you play?" And just some questions. And she said to me that her um, husband had started dating somebody else at the country club, and they had resolved the issue, and she'd forgiven him, and she
Right.
wanted to look sexy again because
Yes.
they were, back together, and this other lady dressed really sexy on the tennis court. So she treated herself to
Take an
these 2
example
dresses
from her.
so that she could, yeah, to look feminine and beautiful on the court for her husband. And I was like, wow, that's amazing,
That is the story. So your brand saved a marriage. You
Exactly.
saved a marriage. So there, now that's the story when you can save the marriage.
That's right.
No, because I always think of it in terms of outfits. It's true that I think of outfits like, oh, well, I was with this person when I wore that outfit. And I always think of it that way. And like certain clothes, if I know that it worked for me in that kind of a way, I won't like get rid of them. Even if they're torn or whatever, I'll hold on to them. So
Yeah,
that is a true impact. And what
yeah,
are some, no, go
one
ahead.
of my clients became a really good friend, and she says that, her husband knows when she's wearing my clothes because she just has a strut in her step that she doesn't have when she's wearing other designers.
No, but it really is true, actually, that like if you don't like your outfit, you can't feel good. Like if you're wearing the outfit that's like what you wear when you're avoiding doing your laundry and you just don't have anything else left, you never feel good on that kind of a day.
And you know as well as I do, certain outfits make you look thinner and taller and sexier, and then certain outfits make you look frumpy and shorter and heavier. And so it's we should never even buy those outfits, but for some reason we do, and then and then we like you said, we use them to do laundry.
Yeah, when you have nothing else left, that's what you wear.
And
Um,
I'll tell you one thing I learned from another business, which was I bought Lululemon pants for $120, probably about 16, 17 years ago. Before they had their own boutiques, they used to sell in high-end gyms. And I was a member of
right.
LA Sports Club in Beverly Hills, which back in the day was very expensive, 4 or $500 a month or something for a gym. And they sold Lululemon in their store, and I bought this $120 pair of, workout pants, which at the time was just a crazy amount of money to pay for
Yeah.
them. But they were such beautiful, high quality. The fabric was amazing. It was soft. It made me look slim. The fit was so great. And so they at the time they were made in Israel, and I was just super impressed with the brand. And then they started opening stores and the quality was there. But then I started buying the pants and they started telling us not to put them in the dryer. So I stopped putting them in the dryer, but then they were like crispy. They weren't soft, you know? And then
Sure.
they were pilling and fading and the skirts were fading and I just was, confused, and I looked inside and they were no longer made in Israel, of course, and all this stuff. And that's one of the reasons I went searching for a fabric and a fit, something that was very modern and clean looking, but also comfortable, but also doesn't get ruined in a few washes.
It's important,
It's very
especially if you're
important.
going to spend that much money.
Yeah, I mean, their skirts are 65, $75. Mine are more like 150, 200. But I have a tennis dress I've worn for 5 years that it hasn't pilled, it hasn't faded, it hasn't damaged at all. It looks absolutely brand new.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important because stuff really does get a little bit grungy after a while. And so,
Yeah.
what were some milestones of your business or some significant accomplishments that the business had? And how do you think you got to those accomplishments?
One of the best things I did was say no to bad clients.
Ah,
So when you're starting out, you need the money really badly. You need clients, you need people to be
yeah,
wearing your items on the court. And I was spending 80% of my negative time servicing these very difficult clients, people who just weren't, you couldn't make them happy, whatever you did. They wanted a discount and they wanted more and they wanted this. And,
people who
they
wanted to pay the least amount of money for the most amount of service.
absolutely, oh, can you make it a little shorter? Can you make it a little longer? And at the beginning, I said yes, yes, yes. And it was probably the genius of my husband. He said, "Why are you doing it?" There was this lady, she bought 2 dresses, and at the time I was custom, I was making them one by one. I didn't have any production. And so I measured her
Right.
and I had them made, one in white and one in black, and they were gorgeous. She was a tiny little lady, and she put them on and she started squeezing the fabric on her waist area and said, "Oh, look, this dress makes me look fat." I said, "What?" She was like, "Yeah." So I went and made them for her again, smaller, custom. So another black one, another white one, and I took them, to her house, and she had another complaint. And when I went back and saw my husband and told him that, yeah, I'd made these 4 dresses and she didn't buy any of them, um, he said, "Adeline," I said I was gonna make them again. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Just give her money back." And I went, "What?" Like that hadn't even occurred to me that I could just say no to her. But that was the beginning. That was the beginning when, I said no to clients. I said no to doing events that weren't aligned with the quality of my product. I said no um, to sewers that did not do things on time. I had a
Yeah.
lot of problems with sewers being late and not not carrying well on their word in different ways. And so, we'd write down, of course, contracts of how much something was, and I'd go back and they'd make me feel bad that, oh, but this took longer than I thought, and play the violin. And so it was very terrible, I would say. For the first 2, 3 years, I struggled a lot in operations, in sales, and definitely with these, what I call them as bad clients. So, yeah, I don't allow them. They're not allowed to do my tournaments. They're not allowed to come on my trips. If they buy something online, they can full price, but that's the only way they can work with me. They don't get a boutique appointment. I have a boutique in Beverly Hills, and I
They
do
don't
by
get to
appointment.
come in. They just can buy
No,
it online and it'll get delivered.
right, that's it. And they have to pay shipping because that's the other thing, they want free shipping. Sorry, I pay for
But
shipping.
it
I'm not
costs you
Amazon.
money to ship it. So why should they get free shipping?
Right. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a super generous woman. And these clients that I was talking to you about that send me pictures and they send me notes appreciating, my hard work and my designs. I really spoil them, because
Yeah.
they're good clients. And so they make me feel good. They make me happy. They're kind to my staff. They're kind to, and they're just generous humans, and I'm generous with them, but I am not going to be generous with someone who makes my life, difficult.
Because there's so many parallels I see from when I started the tennis business and teaching kids tennis. And it really is true that when you're just starting out, you're willing to take like almost anyone on because you need the money. And the one thing you don't realize is that all the extra effort you take into putting into a demanding, unreasonable client is time that you've lost where you could be, you know, making more money if you're
And the
spending
truth
all
is,
this time not only, teaching the person or making them address, but then talking to them and figuring out their concerns and how it can be better. That's time that you could be teaching more lessons because you don't get paid to listen to them complain. And
exactly, and I get a lot of joy from a happy client, and so hearing somebody, struggling and being unhappy really makes me unhappy. And
yeah,
these people who are constantly complaining and asking for discounts and, want to know if you can do specialized things for them and treat them special, they're very difficult to work with because they're unhappy on the inside, and they're trying to get me to, jump how high and all this stuff to make them feel better about themselves. And there's really nothing I can do to make somebody who's unhappy on the inside feel better about
and
themselves,
I mean,
So I like
you're
working
not
with
like
people who are
their therapist. And I remember
right.
a client who wrote to me and yelled at me for making her daughter pick up balls. And she's like, and my daughter's not a ball girl. And I was
Wow.
like, and at that point, I should have been like, you know what? You need to leave this class and just go to any other tennis academy. And they're going to say the same thing that your kid has to pick up balls until you are a touring pro. You're probably going to be picking up balls. And, you know, at that point, and then she like didn't want to pay for her classes and stuff. And it was like pulling teeth to get her to pay for the classes. But when I think about it, all the extra effort I invested in talking to her and dealing with her concerns was, money lost. And it also really depends on what kind of a team you have with you. And that's a big component of like a business doing well is who you have working with you and, how well they can do what you ask them to do. And again, that's also like investing time in them and investing money. And I often wonder, like, why people want to cut corners and pay less when then that means, your employees don't do as good of a work. And ultimately, that's going to hurt or help you in the future.
I feel like the energy, like you're saying, is very important. So if the client, upsets me and I go to downtown to have her things sewn, and then, I'm being grumpy with my sewer, and then my sewer is not going to do a great job, and she's going to get
Yeah.
a substandard, product because the energy throughout the experience was a negative one. But I don't, I am able to see now that the ladies who are complainers about the clothes or they're, cheap or they're, complaining and things, they're the same on the tennis court. They're the ones who bully their partners and complain about the way their partner played. And every time they lose a match, it's always the partner's fault. There's a real correlation with those
Yeah,
ladies. And life is too short to be anywhere around those ladies.
sure. A- And what are some plans you have for the future? Where would you like to see I Love My Doubles Partner go?
So my brand is already doing the tennis trips and the tennis tournaments. Those are really my favorite, where a small group of us have an intimate, fun day together where the women get
Right.
acknowledged in a way that they don't get anywhere else. So the future, I have a boutique, and it's called Tenny Love, which sells only I Love My Doubles Partner items. And I have two other active boutiques right now. One is in Plano, Texas, and one is in Houston, Texas.
Oh,
Plano is
wow.
run by Julie Solomon, and she owns Tenny Love Plano. And then in Tracy Henry owns Tenny Love Boutique in Houston. And we all have by appointment only boutiques where you call us, make an appointment, and you can come and shop at our boutiques. And my dream is to have 100 boutiques across America. And
Nice.
because those boutiques belong to them. I don't own the boutiques, it's their
So you
business.
don't own the boutiques. So
No,
they
they
just have
buy.
to sort of pay for their inventory and then they can do whatever they want with it.
Exactly. They can only sell items that I've approved. For instance,
Right.
I sell head rackets and pro pen balls, so they can't go and they can't go and sell a different racket type inside of their boutique. But as long as they sell, approved products, and I encourage them to find local products that are locally made by other women that are tennis related, but they have to be luxury. And yeah, they build their own business, and it's just fun. It's fun, designing things together because they influence what I'm going to do next season. So Tracy
Right.
Henry and I just decided we want to do pink and green in the summer. And so we talked about it and we designed something together and we made our order, and we're going to get it cut next week and have it sewn specifically for us. And Tracy Henry loves to play pickleball as well as tennis. So she has a lot of pickleball pieces in her boutique. And then Julie Solomon in Plano loves the halter tops. That's her favorite. And so she has more of the
Right.
halter tops in her boutique. So it's really fun because even though we're all connected, we have very different inventory in our boutiques. So, and it's an investment of 25,000 to open a boutique with your first, order. And that's really my
It's
dream, is to have 100
25,000
women.
to get your first order of clothing.
Exactly. And you get the rails and the bags and some jewelry, everything. So you get to choose what you buy. And
Okay.
and
And
it's
you
it's
give them
just
some
super
kind of
fun.
I mean, I guess you give them some kind of an introduction or a training on what everything is and what are its features and everything like that.
Yeah, normally, the boutique owner first is a client before they get offered a boutique. It's a client who is,
Ah,
loves my stuff, has multiple purchased, and I wouldn't sell a boutique to somebody who hasn't worn tons of my clothes. So
right.
Julie and Tracy were both very good clients, and and so that's how it starts, the relationship.
And let's say though someone has like already has a tennis pro shop where they're selling different lines of apparel and they sell different kinds of rackets. It doesn't sound like that's your target. You don't necessarily want them to have I Love My Doubles Partner.
No, my brand is too exclusive to just put it in a pro shop. I
Got
did
ya.
do that at the beginning. I sold to several pro shops, and one in Florida, canceled her $3,000 check on me, and it was just a
Oh my
nightmare to work
God.
with her. And then they don't take care of my product, as far as, if
Sure.
someone's got deodorant on and it gets on my tennis dress, and I just didn't like the way they were treating my product. And so that was one thing. And I did try, ambassadors as well,
Yeah, a lot of
having people
companies have
who.
done that.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Often the ambassadors are young 20-something-year-old women, and so people think, "Oh, it's beautiful on her, but that's because she's gorgeous." But, it doesn't really relate. I like the customer service that Julie, Tracy, and myself can give when a woman comes to our
Sure.
boutique and we, sit down, we talk about some women like longer skirts, so they go for the ruffle skirt, and some women like shorter, so they go for the O skirt. I even if I have a virtual styling appointment, which I do on the phone, I put my cell phone number out for clients to call me. I'm very accessible. And so, all of us love certain parts of our body, and it doesn't really matter what we look like to other people. But, some of us have some insecurities, whether our arms or, our chest or our legs or this and that. And so I've made a collection that can fit whatever type of insecurities and confidences you have. We work around those and we fit you so that you can cover up the bits you don't like so that you can show the bits you're proud of more.
If only all
I,
clothing could be that way.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, the pro shops usually some pro shops have, a very enthusiastic owner or employee, but most of the pro shops are younger, college students or whatever. It's a temporary job. So
Yeah,
they
it's their
don't really
summer job
understand the
or
curves of a, yeah. Yeah, they're not getting a Neiman Marcus style fitting appointment. And so that's why I pulled my brand. Nothing's in stores. Only you can buy them from Tenny Love Boutiques or ilovemydoublespartner.com are the only two places where you can buy my collections.
I mean, you really get a lot of quality control by approaching it that way. Whereas if you just give it to everybody who owns a pro shop, you don't know if that pro shop owner will do it justice or not. And I mean, I've
Yeah,
been
and
offered.
Tracy, Julie, and I don't get returns. Nobody returns stuff to us because we sold them something that they love. We didn't sell them something that they're compromising, so that they the week later come back and return it. So that's a real testament to the service that's given in the Tenny Love boutiques.
And I mean, I've known people who've been ambassadors for stuff, and some people have approached me about being ambassadors for different brands, but I I don't know. I guess I just didn't see it to be an ambassador. I just didn't totally see it as a great approach to selling clothing. I don't know why. Someone did offer me something to do that. Um I guess I felt it again like that people should have the in-store experience. I'm not sure, but it always depends on like the product and what is a good approach for different products as well.
Yeah, it's funny because there were two professional tennis players. They were specialists in doubles that I met through World Team Tennis, and they loved my products. And one of them was at Australian Open wearing my racket, my gold racket and diamond necklace. The diamond is the little ball on the racket. And I didn't know that at the Australian Open or at all of these tournaments, they have their hair and their makeup done before they play. And I had no idea that happened, but it makes sense because they're, on TV. Anyway, so she sat in the makeup woman's chair, and the makeup woman said, "Oh, I love your necklace." This was in Australia. And she gave the lady my website, and the makeup artist was a tennis player, and she bought one for herself and one for her doubles partner. So that was awesome.
Nice. And so you'd like to have 100 boutiques like this.
That would be wonderful because the boutique owners are they're clients, but they become friends. We have a deeper, more intimate relationship. And so I really love that. Yeah. Because if I had 100 of them, we'd go on a Tenny Love boutique owner trip together and just play tennis. And that would be so much fun.
Cool. And how do you currently market your product? What are some things you do?
The main thing at the moment is the tournaments. Of course, with COVID, I haven't been able uh,
Right.
to do those tournaments. But when I do a tournament and they get a skirt, every tournament I get two or three, repeat customers, and so that's been my main marketing tool, the face to face. But I am on social media. I post on Instagram, and I started TikTok, and I just started Pinterest, and I have Google Your Business, and I'm trying to hit all of the avenues. A lot of our clients, though, they're, out playing tennis. They're not really sitting on the computer looking at stuff that much. So, it's been sort of challenging. The good thing is that once I do get a good client, they repeat customers. I mean, they've supported and bought things even though they weren't playing tennis in March and April, May. And so that's been really heartwarming that they
Yeah, it's
cared
really
about my
great to
business.
have loyal customers like that.
Yes.
And I mean, because you could always use the stuff in the future. But I guess the main way that you can get the word out is if all these people play in different tennis games, then the people are like, wow, I love your outfit. Where did you get it? And that probably feels like the natural way that more people are going to come to it. It's just if
Yes.
all these people are walking PR and they say, well, I love my doubles partner. And that, I'm sure is a natural way for the business to grow.
Yes. Yes. That does have the organic, aspect to it.
And what motivated you to start this business in the first place? Just when you got all these people, they asked about the dresses, and that was that, or were there any other underlying motivations?
Well, my husband asked me why, I wear really sexy clothes when we go out, but on the tennis court, I was wearing the baggy, Lulu top with the baggy. My friend Tracy from Houston calls it the diaper skirt, that skirt with the folds on the back. So I said to him, well, because my body, because of the shape of my body, it's actually quite difficult to find. I love tennis dresses, but it's very difficult to find something that fits me all the way down. And
Right.
so that's he was really the reason why I thought, why don't I just make myself a dress? In boarding school, they taught me how to sew and to, cut from a pattern. And I thought,
That's
how hard
always
can it
lucky
be?
to have that.
Yeah. So I thought I could do it, but I didn't actually end up doing it myself.
But that was kind of the whole thing, was that you just wanted to have sexy clothes to wear on the tennis court. And that's been like a change that a trend I've noticed in the last 10 or 20 years is, the advent of sexy, fitness clothes. Because I remember when I was like in junior high school, maybe, and like all we wore were these sweatpants and stuff to gym. Like nobody had trendy, form fitting exercise clothes. And now suddenly we do.
Yeah, and the beauty of
So
it is, like I said, you play, and a lot of my clients and myself and Tracy and Julie, we don't just wear our clothes on the tennis court. They're
you
so
can wear it
soft.
anywhere, really, a
Yeah.
lot of the tennis
Yeah, when
clothes.
we're running errands, we're running around, getting our nails done, getting our hair done. It's super soft, super comfortable. And so that's it's athleisure, they call it now. You can just, it's kind of a
Athleisure, right.
yeah.
Because I mean, because it's also, you get the best of both worlds, where you get something that makes you look sexy, but it doesn't feel stiff like jeans do.
Exactly.
Cool. So where can people find you? If they want to know, is there a website they can go to? How can they find you if they're
If
looking
they're
to
a
purchase
woman
some
who
clothes?
loves tennis, I really prefer them to just call me. Call
Got
me,
yeah.
say hi, tell me where you're from, tell me, what level you are, tell me, your favorite doubles partner, tell me your best strokes. I just love talking to tennis ladies. So my cell phone number is 310-701-7171. That's 310-701-7171. That's my direct
Perfect.
line. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook. I love my doubles partner. Instagram, I love my doubles partner. Yeah,
Nice.
you just Google I love my doubles partner, and I'm all over the place. And the website, if you don't want to write the whole I love my doubles partner out, you can put ilmdp.com, and you'll get there too.
Perfect. So they've got many ways. Now everyone's going to call and we're going to get some people into nice outfits.
Yes.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, thank you. You are a breath of fresh air. I love your energy and your excitement and your passion, and I'm
Oh,
grateful to have done this
thanks.
podcast with you. You're really special.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And we will speak soon.
Big kisses. Mwah.
Mwah. Have a great night. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.